Dajiao and welcome back in Nihao Putaojiu. This week we're going to talk about a very important aspect of wine, its drinking temperature. In the previous episode of Nihao Putaojiu, I always insisted about the service temperature of the wine, and today we're going to study deeper why the wine temperature is a very important thing.
Move me!
The temperature of the wine will drastically change in a positive or negative way the impression and the pleasure that you will feel when you're drinking a wine. Drinking a wine too cold, either red or white, will tend to anesthetize the taste. Likewise, drinking a wine too hot is going to influence its taste. Of course, if you drink a white wine too hot, it's not going to be good for the wine because white wines need to be cooled before drinking. For the reds, if the wine is too hot, it will tend to be heavy and the tannins are going to overwhelm everything. You will also feel more the alcohol, which is going to cover all the different aromas of the wine. The temperature to which you should drink a wine is going to depend on its type. For a brut sparkling, which will tend to be more acidic, try to have it around 8 degrees. For the richer sparklings, like for instance a vintage champagne, try to have it around 10 to be able to feel all the subtlety. For dry white wines, like for instance Sauvignon Blanc from Loire or New Zealand, 9 to 10 degrees would be perfect to appreciate its acidity and freshness. I advise you to drink your rosé at a similar temperature. For rich white wines, like for instance Burgundies or Napa Chardonnay, 11 to 13 degrees, which will allow you to fully take advantage of their opulence. Finally, sweet wine will show better their aromas between 11 and 13 degrees, depending on their sugar level. Okay, so now let's talk about the reds. Light red wine should be served from 13 to 15 degrees. I call the red wine light when it's rather acidic and will have very low tannins. For example, a Beaujolais from France or a Pinot Noir from New Zealand. Full-bodied red should be served between 15 and 18 degrees. Full-bodied reds have tannins and they will express themselves better with a slightly higher temperature, like for instance Bordeaux or Spanish wine from La Rioja. You're going to tell me, thank you very much Vincent for telling me at which temperature I should drink my wine, but how am I going to be sure that my Pinot Noir is at 15 degrees and not at 17 degrees? Since normal people don't go at a restaurant or a bar with a thermometer, it's true that it's very hard to know exactly at which temperature is your wine. I'm going to give you a few advice to avoid to waste your wine because you're not drinking it at the right temperature. Advice number 1 for sparkling, whites, rosé and sweet wines. If you're drinking that kind of wine at home, you can put them like 3, 4 or 5 hours in advance in your fridge to be sure that it is going to be very cool. If you lack of time, you can still put it in the freezer for like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half to be sure that it will be very chill. In a restaurant or a bar, they will have an ice bucket, but be careful not to have your wine too long in it, otherwise it's going to be too cold. Advice number 2 for reds. At home, when the weather is very hot, I usually put my red wine in the fridge for like 30 minutes. I usually open it and then put it in the fridge. In a restaurant, if your wine is too hot, you can just ask for an ice bucket and you leave it in it like 5 minutes. It should be at the right temperature. Advice number 3, to serve small portions. If you're in a hot room or if you're drinking wine outside in the summer in China, your wine will even become too hot before you finish your glass. So if you want to control the temperature of your wine in your glass, you should serve some small portions. Advice number 4, take your time. Indeed, if you're going to open a great bottle of wine, a very good wine, you should really wait until it's in perfect conditions to drink it. So if you have to wait for 30 minutes until your wine is in perfect condition, do it. Otherwise, it's going to ruin your experience. And in 30 minutes or 1 hour, your wine will still be there, so wait for it. Alright, thank you very much for watching this episode of Nihao Putaojiu. Now you know everything about the wine temperature and how to serve a wine in perfect conditions. And obviously, don't forget to drink wine.